On this episode of Bite Sized, we are discussing the sixth scene from the film Twilight. For those of you watching along at home, that is from 6 minutes and 46 seconds to 7:42. It's a short one today. And now, on to the episode. Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Bite Sized, the, as far as I can tell, only podcast that is watching the Twilight movies in chronological order, one scene at a time. I am always, as your host, Ben Abear. If this is your first episode 6 is a good place to start. Good for you for doing something new. I am a Chicago area comedian and now podcast host. I have set out to watch all the Twilight movies in chronological order, one scene at a time, and discuss them with one of my friends from the Chicago comedy scene or around the world. I have seen the entire movie up to this point, but my guests have only been given about 60 to 90 seconds, which we will discuss. Speaking of discuss, let's do that now. I'm so good at segues. My guest today is a Chicago improviser, comedian, and research assistant. You can see her do two of those three things, and maybe all three if you're willing to break some laws. Lily Ludwig, welcome to Bite Sized.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Glad to hear it. How you doing today?
I'm good.
What's been going on in your life?
It's a gorgeous day. It's been a gorgeous week. I think I walked home from work every day this week. Last week?
Yeah, this is the first week that Chicago in a while has gotten warm and stayed warm.
Yeah.
And I say that we're talking a lot about this week. Let's pull back the curtain. It is still Monday.
Yes.
So when you say you've walked home from work every day this week, does that mean just this one day?
I meant last week.
Yeah, I think we're all a little behind.
Yeah.
And by all, I mean the two of us. Lily Ludwig, I'm going to start this conversation the way I've started everyone, which is with our first question. What is your history with the Twilight franchise?
Okay, so I was pretty much the target audience for these books.
Sure.
They came out around the time I was in middle school.
Yeah.
I remember at least starting to read them in 7th grade.
Okay.
Because all my friends were reading them too.
Yeah.
And I love to read, so I was like, I'll check out the series everybody's talking about.
It makes sense.
And what puzzled me the most was that there seemed to be, at least, I'm talking about 2010, that's when I was in 7th grade. And at that point, if you were a middle schooler in 2010, everyone either was obsessed with Twilight, had like Edward cutouts in their room, it was their favorite thing ever, or loved to hate on Twilight.
Right.
Especially if you were a Harry Potter fan.
So by
you hated
2010,
Twilight. Yeah.
Twilight was maybe at the height of its craziness.
Yes.
This first movie had come out 2 years prior. Mm-hmm. The books had already gone so huge. At this point, you knew about Twilight. Regardless of your opinion on it, it was on your radar.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I remember being like, where do I fit into this dichotomy? Because I read the book and I enjoyed it. And then I was like, okay, what book am I going to read next?
Yeah.
I somehow did not fall down the rabbit hole of obsession or hatred with that.
Okay.
It was sort of like the Justin Bieber thing at the same time.
Very similar phenomenon.
Where I was like, yeah, I kind of like the song Baby.
Okay.
I don't hate this dude or love this dude. There's
real.
probably more people like me out there. I'm sure I'm not a phenomenon there.
What were you obsessed with then as a middle schooler in 2010?
Musical theater.
Okay. That makes sense.
Les Miserables.
You were waiting for the Les Mis movie that was coming out a few years later.
Yes.
That was...
Yeah, that was... I want to say high school or college that movie came out.
That would have been... probably high school. This is not a Les Mis podcast, and it never will be. That's my promise to you, the listener. I think it's overrated.
You just read... Isn't the book super long? I actually never read the book.
I've never read the book either. I've seen the movie.
Yes.
And that's enough for me.
I listen to the CD every single day.
I'm sorry to trash talk your obsession like this.
Oh, that's okay. I also did not understand most of it. My mom had to explain to me to stop singing the prostitute song because it was about prostitutes. And I was like, I thought it was just about like pretty ladies in the town square.
It's just a fun song.
Yeah.
Twilight, Justin Bieber, you're very neutral about these things. At what point did you say enough of Twilight? Did you read the second book? Did you watch any of the movies?
I read the entire series.
You read the entire series?
And I remember thinking...
Were you hoping that at some point it was going to click?
No, I mean, I enjoyed them
Yeah.
like I would enjoy any other book. It just didn't become my whole life, is what I'm saying. But I read the whole series. Even I found a lot of it very disturbing. I remember
Really?
being like, I cannot believe my mom let me read this. I would not let my 13-year-old read this. But I was also a very sheltered kid.
Same.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up like very Christian. I was homeschooled through elementary school.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was homeschooled through
that whole
all the
thing.
way.
Just one step shy of backyard chickens. We weren't that far into it.
Sure.
But
yeah.
like church several times a week kind
No
of.
Harry Potter, I'm guessing. That's demonic.
Not for a while.
Okay.
I think no Harry Potter. And then when I was about 10, my mom was like, fine, but you can read one a year. So you
Yeah.
kind of grow up with Harry.
Interesting.
Because the later books get really intense.
Yeah.
But I think when I was allowed to be 1 year younger than Harry. So I was
That
allowed to
is
read one book a year.
Such a weird
Isn't that
stance
interesting?
on that.
And
Because
then,
my
yeah.
mom was just straight up, no, it's witchcraft and that's demonic.
I think they were like that at first. And then
Yeah.
they saw how just every other kid was reading Harry Potter and they were like, fine.
That's sort of what my mom did with Halloween. Because growing up, me and my siblings did not trick or treat.
Oh.
It was just not. It was not a thing in our household. And then as we started aging, eventually we did get too old for that. But my mom would start sort of softening on it, warming up to the idea of Halloween. Like she would, she went from porch light off the whole night to just leaving a bowl out to now I think she eventually got to the point where she would open the door and hand out treats. And I think it's just because she likes kids. She likes like young children. And when her children were adults, she stopped seeing young children. And so it was just a fun thing to do. Sorry, Mom, if you hear this. I'm not trying to psychoanalyze you.
We were allowed to trick or treat, but I was not allowed under any circumstances to be a witch or something like that.
Yeah, that makes
like
sense.
no devil, no anything like that. Yeah.
Sorry, Mom, if I got too deep and psychoanalyzed you for all the world to hear. This is revenge for 1999 when you made me throw out all my Pokemon cards. I was into Pokemon for about a year before that was taken away from me.
Man, evolution.
Some lady at church, some Sunday school lady when I was in second grade, told me with a straight face that every name of a Pokemon is the name of a demon. And even at like 6 or 7, I was not I knew that can't be true, right?
Quake in fear for me, Piplup.
Yeah, that means there's like demons named Mr. Mime and
Yeah.
Jigglypuff.
I am not afraid of Jigglypuff the demon.
No, Squirtle is not a good demon name. This is not a Pokemon podcast, and it never will be.
Damn.
Back to Twilight. You read the books.
But they get really intense. Again,
Yeah.
for a 13-year-old, I mean, it gets into some like almost like light BDSM.
Okay.
Like it gets really intense and just like, yeah, fleeing for your life and seeing
Yeah.
people you love die or get transformed.
A lot of eating people,
A lot of like sexual tension.
The later movies do get pretty graphic in a few different ways. Speaking of movies, did you watch the movies?
I think I've seen each movie once, or maybe just not the last one, because I think the last one came out in 2 parts.
It did, yeah.
I assumed you would know.
4 books, 5
Yes.
movies. Yeah.
As was the trend, and probably still is.
Oh, it started the trend.
You think?
Oh, I know.
Oh.
Because after that, Hunger Games did the same thing, and it's just...
Harry Potter did the same
Oh,
thing.
wait a minute. Did Harry Potter do it first? I think
I don't
Harry
know if it
Potter
was
did
first.
it first.
And now it's looped back around to where I'm like, well, I don't know if I would let my kids read Harry Potter because of the other end of the
know.
spectrum.
How fun is that we were ahead of the hating J.K. Rowling
I know,
trend?
right?
Yeah. How did you see them for the first time? Were you in
I think
junior
I
high,
was
high
at
school?
home.
Okay.
Maybe I like rented it or something. I don't remember. I think I
Okay.
watched the second one on an airplane.
Interesting. Have you seen all of them?
If I have, it was over 10 years ago.
And if you have, you've clearly forgotten.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've definitely seen the first 2, and I have a friend group that's very into Twilight,
Yeah.
and so I've definitely watched the first one with them, just like over Discord or something.
Please tell them
they
to
are
listen
so
to the show,
excited that
then.
I'm doing this podcast.
Oh, hell yeah.
I texted this friend group. I was like, hey, there's a guy in Chicago who has a Twilight podcast who
Yeah.
asked me to be on it. And my one friend was like, oh my God, I'm watching it right now.
Hell yes. Thank you, Twilight fans. All right, with that out of the way, let's get into the clip we watched today. Scene 6. It's less than 60 seconds
56.
of movie. It's gym class. A bunch of people are playing volleyball. Bella's not very good at it. She accidentally hits a kid in the back of the head.
Whoa!
I'm sorry. I told them not to let me play.
Oh, wait. No, that's don't. You're, Isabella, right?
Just Bella.
Yeah, hey, I'm Mike. Newton.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
She's got a great spike, huh? I'm Jessica, by the way.
Anna Kendrick is there. A lot of things happen.
Yes.
In less than a minute of movie. I would even go so far as to call it an action-packed sports montage.
Yes, okay. I watched this again on the train coming over because I wanted to count how many shots were in it, like how many camera changes. I counted about 25 in a 56-second scene.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It does a good job of
Twilight is an
conveying that
action
sort of
movie.
quick
Twilight is a
action.
sports hero movie.
Whenever people talk about Twilight with sports, they always talk about the baseball scene.
Oh, yeah.
The volleyball is where it's at. You get some really cool, maybe 5 or 6 seconds of volleyball action.
Watching this scene made me feel very seen.
Really?
When I did 1 year of public school when I was in high school, 11th grade. It was about the same age as Bella. And I hated gym class so much just because I'm very incompetent with hand-eye coordination type things.
Just like Bella.
I remember this one sport we would play outside in gym class that I'm pretty sure my gym teacher made up. Similar to soccer.
Yeah.
We were chasing a ball around on a field.
That sounds like soccer. Were you allowed to use your hands?
I don't remember. I think I blocked most of this out. But what I do remember,
a good idea.
what I remember is we had to wear these heart monitor type things on our wrists to make sure that we had our heart rate up the entire gym class. And that's really the only thing we were getting graded on. And I never wanted the ball to come to me or for anyone to depend on me to do any sport thing ever.
Yeah.
So I spent the entire time running the opposite direction that I should,
Yeah.
but making it look like I was still trying to play. And at the end, it would be like, oh, good job, Lily. You were playing hard the whole time because I kept my heart rate up.
And this is how you would get graded?
I guess.
Like if your heart rate wasn't high enough, would they like make you run more or something? This is so foreign to me.
I don't know, man. American public schools,
It's weird, right?
their heart's in the
What's
right
it
place.
like? We're going to go completely off topic here. What's
Yes,
it like
please.
going from years of homeschooling to public school?
Ooh,
Because that's got to be the most confusing thing ever.
it was my idea,
Okay.
and I had sort of a transition. So I was homeschooled through elementary school, and then 5th grade, I started going to a charter school that met 2 days a week for like performing arts type stuff.
Yeah.
And then I added more days a week. So I was going to school 4 to 5 days a week by the time I went to public school. But the size was very different.
Yeah.
Like I knew everybody at the charter school I went to. My graduating class was less than 20 people, I think.
Okay.
And then I went to
You
a
just
school.
beat last week's guest, Heather Scholl, who told us that her graduating class was 96.
Yeah.
So the new record to beat for guests is less than 20.
I think it was about 16.
My graduating class was 12.
Wow.
I know.
Damn.
No one's ever going to beat me.
So, then I went to a school where my graduating class would have been about 400.
Okay.
But then I went back to the performing arts school for senior year. It was good. Honestly,
Yeah.
it was this weird... I think I had seen so many movies about American high school,
Yeah.
even just like High School Musical or Twilight or something, where it's like, oh, gym class, that's such an iconic thing.
Yeah.
Or going to like a big prom or something. And I was like, I feel like I'm missing out on this. Like doing a big school play on a huge stage. And so I was like, can I try out public school? And my parents were like, sure. Because we always just did school a year at a time, which I thought was cool. I loved being homeschooled.
Yeah, it was great. I enjoyed it too, for what it's worth. I always imagined, though, it would be like the most accurate representation of homeschooling ever seen in media is Mean Girls. Have you seen Mean Girls?
Yes.
When the first day Lindsay Lohan goes into the lunchroom and is just like, what the hell is going on?
It's like a bunch of animals at a watering hole or something. Yeah.
Homeschoolers in pop culture are always like, it's always like 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee or something like that, where it's just some insane weirdo who doesn't know how to function in human society. And those people do exist.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
But my brother and I, to my parents' credit, we were very socialized.
Yeah.
Granted,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of it was through church programs.
Yes.
Like there would be, a Wednesday program for all the homeschool kids at the church. And we would go and have like an art class and a gym class and
Yeah.
a Bible class. But
Sure.
it was fun.
I did that on Fridays. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super relatable. Yeah, because homeschooling, there's only so much your parents can do. You have to rely on the community for
Yeah.
other things. And a lot of that comes, a lot of that brings
but we were on
socializing,
like
too.
swim team, and my
Yeah.
brother did karate, and we had like science club. So we were out of the house. We had a lot of friends.
Yes. Yeah, that's more accurate to the homeschooling experience. But that has nothing to do with Twilight.
Can I make an observation about this scene?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or pretty much
Please
any
do.
scene
Yeah,
in
that's
Twilight.
the point of the show, Lily.
It is so blue tinted.
That's the Blue Bell, a new feature I'm debuting here on this episode. Congratulations, Lily. In 6 episodes, you are the 6th guest to mention how blue everything is.
Wow.
And now every time a guest says how blue it is, I'm going to ring the blue bell.
You are so excited. You just lit up.
I did.
I've never seen you happier.
It was so much fun. Oh, thank you so much. But yes, it is a very blue movie. Even in this scene that's in the gym and has a lot of like yellows in it, it still manages to be very blue.
She looks translucent.
Yeah.
I
does.
think that's the point.
Oh, for sure. It's a style choice.
I also, another Twilight comment, I think the reason you picked me for this scene is they mentioned that she used to live in Arizona.
Oh, we're going to get to that, yeah.
Oh, okay. You want me to wait?
No, let's get on into it. We'll segue into there. In this scene, we meet perhaps my favorite of the performances in this movie. I think maybe the best, because we meet Anna Kendrick, who in a movie full of just sort of mopey, mumbly, quiet people is a peppy ray of sunshine.
Yeah.
She's got a great spike, huh? I'm Jessica, by the way. Hey, you're from Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Aren't people from Arizona supposed to be, like, really tan?
Yeah. Maybe that's why they kicked me out.
You're good.
That's so funny.
So 2010 was also the height of the like, well, I'm not like other girls kind of
for
a thing,
sure.
which I super fell into at the time. I was like, I'd rather hang out with my guy friends because they're less drama.
Listen to Les Mis.
Yeah. And I think Anna Kendrick kind of serves to fuel that fantasy of the I'm not like other girls.
Right.
Oh, like I'm not all peppy and like hitting on boys in gym class.
Sure,
I
she
must be
is.
so much more interesting and smart.
She's sort of the platonic ideal of the other girl.
Yes.
Wow, that's deep. I never really viewed this movie through that lens before, but I'm going to start doing that now. She walks up to Bella and asks if she's the new girl. I think she's the second person in the scene, third person in the movie to do that. Mm-hmm. This is Bella's first day at school. How does everyone already know who she is?
I think that's the point.
Yeah.
I think she's so uncomfortable. It's this girl who's more comfortable alone or hanging out with like a friend or two. She's very introverted. And for everyone to, like for her to be like a celebrity all of a sudden, she just hates it.
That's a very good reading.
I think she needs to hate
Sure.
Forks
Oh, for sure.
for the plot to happen. And that definitely furthers it.
That's a lot deeper than I was thinking. I was just wondering, how do they all know this is the new girl? Is there like an email that goes around or something? Because everyone spots her and is immediately like, you're new.
Well, I think in the book, at least, her dad is well known around the town because he's like the sheriff or something. And so it's like, oh, the sheriff's estranged daughter is coming back. So I think that like floats around the town.
And it would make sense that in a very small town, a very small high school, you know, like you said, you get to know everyone. And so after a while, if someone new shows up, it's going to be obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anna Kendrick asks Bella, you're from Arizona, right? Which means I get to do one of my favorite things and just straight up ask my guest a question that someone in the scene gets asked. And I get to say, you're from Arizona, right?
I did live there for 4 years.
Aren't people from Arizona supposed to be really tan? Another question lifted straight from the scene.
This also made me feel very seen.
Uh-huh.
People ask me that all the time.
Yeah, really?
If you can see me in real life right now, I've got a lot of freckles, but I really don't get tan.
Yeah.
And
I think you're tanner than me, if I'm being honest.
okay.
Yeah,
well,
you
the
got
bar's
a little bit
low.
on me.
I remember I would go back to the East Coast for holidays like Christmas or the 4th of July or something. And my relatives would say stuff like that to me because they would be tanner than I was. And I was like, I don't know. It's also kind of dangerous to spend a lot of time outside in Arizona.
Yeah, that's how you get skin cancer.
The hottest it ever got while I lived there was 120 Fahrenheit.
Yikes.
And you really don't want to be out like tanning if it's 120.
No, that's true.
You can like go outside for a bit, check the mail and then come back inside and drink a bunch of water.
Yeah, you definitely try to stay outside.
I don't even think I was
happens.
that. Like looking back at pictures, I don't think I ever got tan when I lived in Arizona.
Did you know people who were tan or anything like that?
I mean, I guess. Yeah, especially
Okay.
like the sportier people.
Sure.
So
That's
it is
just true of
possible
anywhere,
to get
though.
tan in Arizona. I don't know if it was possible for me.
Okay.
I'm not quite as see-through day glow as Miss Bella. but
Yeah.
Again,
You
low
also
bar.
don't have a blue filter laid over you at all times. You could do that if you wanted to, though.
Like those blue light filters so you don't get like blinded by your computer.
Yeah. Just a big sort of the ones that they use, a big day for night blue piece of plastic that they put over lights in cheap movies.
Oh, yeah,
Just
yeah.
walk with one of those in front of you at all times and you'll look like you're in a Twilight
And then I'll
movie.
take it off and be like, look how tan I got.
Bella's response to the question, aren't people from Arizona supposed to be tan, is to say, maybe that's why they kicked me out of Arizona. Did they kick you out of Arizona?
I just want to say real quick, I
Yes.
love her for that.
Yeah.
What a quick
She's always
witty
got
response.
she's always got something.
Yeah. And she but she
'Cause
says
she's
it
not
in
like
such
other
a
girls.
like shy, like lip bitey way. She's
Uh-huh.
like, "Oh, maybe that's why they kicked me out."
Wow. You just transformed in front of me.
It's the Debbie Ryan hair tuck
And the way you were just constantly looking at the floor as
Yeah.
you said all of those things.
and absolutely gnawing my lip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just about to chew it right off. But stop avoiding the question. Did they kick you out of Arizona or did you leave willingly?
Oh, no, I left willingly.
Okay, that's good. I just wanted to make sure that's not something they're doing.
Not
Kicking
to me.
people out to other states.
No,
That's good.
I was like, I'm 22 and I want to live in a big city. I'm going to go to Chicago.
Sure.
And I moved January 2020
Oh,
without knowing anybody either.
great timing.
And I was like, I'll go out and meet people when it gets warm out. And then in the spring,
Mm-hmm.
the funniest thing happened.
No, really, tell me. What happened in March
That
of
is
2020
you know
in
what?
Chicago?
Can I confess something to you?
Yeah, go for it.
That's a Bo Burnham joke, and no one's ever called me out on it.
Oh, really?
I think it's something in Inside, and he's like, and I decided 2020 was going to be my year. I was going to go back and do shows, and then the funniest thing happened.
Oh.
And I say that all the time, and no one's ever called me on it.
Yeah, I was not going to call you on that mainly because I hadn't seen that.
But this is not a Bo Burnham podcast.
It's not, and it probably never will be. It's more likely to become a Bo Burnham podcast than a Pokemon or definitely a Les Mis podcast. Of all the things we've talked about today, it'll probably be a Mean Girls podcast before anything else. Oh, that's such a great movie. Did you see The Disappearing Girl?
No.
This scene is kind of famous, maybe even notorious among Twilight fandom for the disappearing girl.
It's just like weird editing or something?
Yeah, well, fine. If you want to be boring about
sorry,
it, it's
sorry,
weird
sorry.
editing.
Edit that out.
No, leave that in. Let her be shamed publicly. First of all, it's odd because this is clearly a child and not an adult pretending to play a child
Really?
like all the other actors.
Like
I've
Anna
got the
Kendrick,
scene-
who's probably like 30 in this movie.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to go scene by scene and showing you what I'm talking about. Scene by scene. I mean frame by frame. This whole podcast is going scene by scene. All right. So she just hit blonde guy.
Mike, I think.
Sure. In the back of the head with the volleyball while he's playing basketball
Yes.
on the same court.
That was the other
That's
observation I was
odd.
going to make. I was
Yeah.
like, that I don't think happened in gym class.
Okay, that was a
That's so
question I was
silly.
going to ask. That seems frankly irresponsible.
Or maybe if there was like a divider in the room. I remember that.
Sure.
If there was like two different gym classes happening at
that
the same
I've seen
time.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's watch this. The volleyball hits him. There's the girl. You see the girl right there?
She looks 10 years old.
She looks 10 years old and also 15 years younger than everyone else in the scene. She's walking to get the volleyball, and we cut away. We cut back to that angle. Wait for it. She's not there.
It was a
She's
ghost.
gone. And throughout the rest of this scene, she's just nowhere to be seen.
Wow.
Who is this child?
Is it like the
Let's start
director's
with
kid
that.
or something?
Maybe. I don't know. Let's talk in the universe of
Okay,
the film
hold on.
first.
Is this the kind of thing where like you know the answer? and
No,
you want
no
me to
one knows
guess?
the answer.
Oh, okay.
This is an unsolved mystery of the Twilight series. I guess if you, the listener, know, write in
Yes,
to the
please.
email address I'll give you at the end of the show. But let's talk about right now. Let's just start at the beginning. Why is there someone who's clearly 10, 15 years younger than everyone else in this gym?
Yes. Okay. You would like me to suspend my disbelief and act
Assume
like
that
okay.
you go to Forks High School. You see this child. What's the child doing there?
I would assume it was like a take your kid to work kind of a scenario.
Sure, maybe like the coach's kid or something.
Right, but if there's no other kids, I don't know. But also, I feel like she seems very involved.
Right. Like
Like,
she runs out to get the volleyball.
She's not sitting on the bleachers reading a book. Like she's
Right.
running and trying to play basketball. She's smiling.
And I don't think she's wearing like the same gym clothes as everyone else.
Yeah.
She's just wearing like a hoodie.
If there can be vampires in Forks,
Yeah.
maybe there's like a Benjamin Button kid or something.
Maybe.
Or a ghost.
See, my theory is listeners to the show will remember when we discussed the invisible truck driver a few episodes back. I think this is just the invisible truck driver's daughter who also has that ability to disappear.
I love that.
There's one scene, I think it was episode 3, where there's a truck driving. And if you watch it right, you can see through the window of the truck, there's just no one in there.
Have you seen Community?
I have not.
Okay, there's a arc that is like an Easter egg where there's something much more interesting going on in the background than what's happening in the so the main characters are talking about whatever, while the character Abed is helping to like deliver a baby in the background, and it's kind of hard to catch. And it's a multi-episode arc. There's a scene where like he gives a condom to a couple at some dance, and then a few, like, I don't know, maybe it might be another season, you see the girl from the scene before is pregnant, and then later you see Abed like delivering a baby in the back of a truck. And I didn't notice it when I watched through all of Community during COVID, and I never saw it. And I'm wondering if maybe this is a case of like, oh, the real plot is happening in the background. Bella's talking about volleyball in Arizona, but there is a disappearing man and child who are the real protagonists of the story.
And it makes sense because in just the town of Forks, there's already vampires and werewolves. So why not a family that can turn invisible? Right?
Yeah. It's not that much of a stretch.
It makes sense. And I'm going to, as I watch the rest of this movie, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, you won't have to do this. But as I watch each successive scene, I think I'm going to be looking for the invisible people and their influence.
I have already accepted this as canon.
It has to be, because it's happened twice in the first 7 minutes of the film. It can't be an accident.
If this was another teenager, I'd be like, okay, you're stretching. But this looks like an actual child.
This is... I'll take a screen grab of this or something and post it on our social media accounts when this episode drops, because it's a child. More so than any other extra in this movie. It's just a kid.
Yeah.
And it's so jarring. And there's probably some reasonable explanation for it. Like, obviously the kid grabs the volleyball and runs back. And there's plenty of time to do that while we've cut away looking at Bella's face. But I don't know, that's not fun.
Kids aren't that fast.
No, kids aren't that fast.
Unless she's invisible and has super speed.
It's possible. All bets are off at this point. Anything can happen in this universe.
Forks is like, welcome to Night Vale. Just like whatever kind of weird shit can happen.
Maybe she's also a vampire, and her ability is to disappear and run really fast.
Yeah, because they all get one, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't every vampire get like their own special
Every vampire
superpower?
does get a special power, yes.
Yeah.
It's, I think, my favorite thing. Because they're all fast and strong, obviously. But there's some that are like extra strong. And one who, as far as I can tell, her superpower is just being really pretty.
Rosalie?
The blonde one.
Yeah. What would yours be?
Oh, that's a great question.
Because okay, to give you some time to think, I'll vamp a little.
Sure.
It's usually
vamp.
Vampires. Yes, I definitely said that on purpose. Oh, not the vamp bell. It's usually a heightening of some ability that you already have. Like Bella's later is like,
well, she
can like read minds or something.
Her power is that other powers don't work on her.
Oh, right.
I think they call it a shield or something like that.
Sure.
So like, there's a vampire who can just make other people feel pain, and that like,
but she can't feel it.
Or like Edward can read minds, but he can't read hers.
And she's already good at like shutting people out or whatever.
Right.
And Edward was probably like a pretty observant person, and then when he was a vampire he could read minds.
Weirdly though, this starts before she's a vampire. Like the whole Edward can't read her mind thing.
Right, because she's special and not like other girls.
Right.
Next question.
Okay, God, I am so sorry. I think my vampire ability would just be reading really fast.
Yeah?
Yeah, because that's something I can sort of already do. I think I could just like pick up a book and just yeah.
Okay,
and
that's
just read
cool.
it. Yeah.
I think mine would also be kind of academic. I have a very good memory naturally.
Yeah.
But I think if I was a vampire, it would be like photographic memory.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, which was maybe that's not fair though, because some people can actually do that already.
I
feel like a vampire ability has to be at least a little supernatural.
Okay.
Maybe I can remember other people's memories too.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Sort of the opposite of Alice, basically, who can look into the future. You can look into the past.
Or maybe, okay, so a memory thing, I'm very good with names. I'll remember someone's name the first time they tell me. Mm-hmm. Maybe I can like look at someone and just know their name.
Okay, that's a good one.
I don't know how helpful that would be unless I was trying to just like scam people.
Yeah, I was about to say, all these abilities, not real useful in a fight, which is what sort of most of the vampire abilities seem to be used for.
I'll be like, I'm gonna remember their memories of what their plan of attack is, and then we can like evade them.
I'll read a book about martial arts really fast. I don't know.
Yes, and then we can.
If you had to give this scene a name, what would it be? And this is also going to be the name of the episode, so make it good.
Ooh, Volleybonk. Like volleyball, but she bonks him on the head.
It.
Yeah. It's a portmanteau.
Yeah, it's Volleybonk. I love it. It's very succinct.
That was the first one that popped into my head.
Incredible. Maybe my new favorite episode title so far.
What was your favorite before?
Well, last week's episode was just Suffer in Silence, which I think is good in just a completely different way. It's a little... it's a little more in tone.
Did your parents or grandparents ever say that to you?
No.
Oh, that was like a phrase in our family.
What?
It was just basically like, stop whining.
Oh, man. I wish I'd had you on the last episode because we talked a lot about suffering in silence.
Yeah. I think it was mostly said lightheartedly.
Uh-huh.
Like if you say it...
Because the way you phrase it, I'm concerned.
Every now and then, I say something from my childhood that I think is funny.
Yeah.
And then someone else goes, whoa.
Hey, we all do that,
Yeah.
but I'm doing it to you right now. But let's get back to Volleybonk because that's great. It's evocative. They're playing volleyball. Someone gets bonked.
And that was just my nightmare in gym class.
Yeah.
Was
Is that
just
you
like-
would do that to someone or that someone would hit you?
No, that I would do it to someone.
Really?
If someone did it to me, I would be like, oh no, I have to go to the nurse for 40 minutes.
Oh.
I didn't want to hurt anyone in gym class. I didn't want anyone to depend on me in gym class because I knew I would let them down.
Okay.
Cut to 2 periods later, AP Psych, I was like the hero of that class. Because we
How many
did,
opportunities were there to be heroes in AP
we
Psych?
played Jeopardy as like a review game a lot, and people would be like, well, it's just not fair because whatever team Lily's on wins.
Yeah.
And then I went on to like major in psychology. So
Okay.
that was my like varsity sport.
That's where it all
Sometimes
started.
we would be losing and it would be like the very end of class and I would get a question right and we would win. And if you won, you got extra credit on the test.
hell yeah.
The whole half of class would get extra credit. And that was the closest I ever got to like being put on someone's shoulders and then like chanting my name. I was like, this is where I peak. This is
Yeah. They're never going to do that for you no matter how good you are at trivia.
But it felt the same.
No, it does. It absolutely does.
Emotionally, it was the same.
That's why I do trivia all the time because I'm chasing
Yeah?
that high.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anything else about this episode that you wanted to mention?
I just really like the acting in this scene.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can tell exactly what everybody's thinking the whole time.
Yeah.
Like you can tell that Mike has this immediate crush and that Anna Kendrick's character is a little bit jealous about it, but she's still trying to be peppy. And
Yeah.
Bella just straight up doesn't want to be there at all. It's so real. It's just so high school.
Yeah, I was about to say it immediately gives you a glimpse into what sort of character archetypes, what high school kid these are.
Yeah.
I guess I was going to ask which one of those three were you most like, but we already established you were the Bella of your high
Yeah,
school.
I don't think I'm much like Bella overall, but in this particular scene,
Yeah.
like in gym class specifically, I was like, nobody look at me, nobody talk to me.
Do you think you would be more like Bella now if you also met a 100-year-old vampire who thought you were absolutely fascinating?
How would I react to meeting a 100-year-old vampire who thought I was
How
fascinating?
would you... Actually, that's a great question. How would you react to that? Because it hasn't happened yet, but
I
hey,
think
let's
there's a
talk
difference
about it.
between like me meeting this person and us like becoming friends versus
Yeah.
like this person is pursuing me as a romantic partner.
Yeah.
First of all, I already have one of those. I'm very happy.
Is
with
he a
him.
vampire?
No.
I've never seen him in the sun before. That's a true fact.
He does
actually.
burn very easily.
Yeah.
I've never seen him sparkle though. Mm-hmm. I think also just living in a major city, you just kind of collect people.
Yeah.
And just like a weird variety of people.
Sure.
And sometimes I'll meet someone who's so strange or just see someone on the subway who's like wearing a tutu and screaming. And you're
Yeah.
just like, what an interesting person to
wonder
add
what
to
your
my
story
collection.
is.
Like,
Yeah.
I think of my life, this is so silly, but almost like a big tapestry or something.
Yeah.
And each person I meet or thing I do is like a string in it.
Okay.
And every time I meet someone super weird, I'm like, what an interesting string to add to this tapestry.
We've gotten some fascinating glimpses into your life and
Yeah.
into your mind in this episode. And I think that's beautiful. Lily Ludwig, thank you so much for being on Bite Sized. If the listeners want to, say, follow you on social media or see you perform live sometime this summer, I think this episode is going up in late July, how would they do all of those things?
Oh, yeah. I'm at lily.ludwig on Instagram. That's probably the best place. I post about shows there sometimes. I've got a link in my bio of all
Yeah.
the shows I'm doing. A lot of music improv, if that's what you're into.
A lot of music improv. If you are into music improv, you can see me do it too as part of Riff, Chicago's music improv party at I.O. Chicago. I think in August I'll be there 2 or 3 times. Saturdays at 10 p.m. Even if I'm not in the show, you're still going to have a great time.
It's such a good show.
It's a fun show, and I say that as someone who's in it, so you know I'm being honest. You can also follow this very podcast on social media at bitesizedpod_ on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, because Bite-Sized Pod without the underscore was already taken. If you want to support the show, please tell all your friends about it, share it online, maybe give us a 5-star review wherever you review. I don't know, iTunes. Do people still review podcasts anymore?
I'm an Android girl. I don't know.
Yeah, I just go out there and make the algorithm work for us. Also, brand new for this episode, if you want to communicate with me, the host of this show, if you have thoughts on things we've already discussed or things we will be discussing, you can send an email to myfavoritetwilightpodcast@gmail.com. I tried a bunch of iterations that had the name of the show bite-sized in it. All of them were taken. I eventually got frustrated and just put in my favorite Twilight podcast at gmail.com.
Well, it's definitely my favorite one.
Yeah. And it's just a bunch of words you already know how to spell. So that's easy. No numbers, no underscores or whatever. Just a full sentence. Our editor is Ben Oksher. Our theme song is Mauled to Death by the fantastic band Swimwear Department. Give them a listen wherever you find your music. That is it for this episode of Bite Size. Please come back next week where I will be discussing a different scene with a different guest. Until then, as we always say at the end of Bite Sized,
chomp chomp.
Chomp chomp, everyone. See you next time.